when we stand up and say enough is enough, when we stand on the shoulders of our parents and our grandparents and all the generations who came before us, who made absolutely certain that the promise of America was available to us. We are not going to let these people steal our children's future. And anybody who believes that we don't have a fight on our hands is living in Never Never Land. We have an enormous fight on our hands. I'm proud of the fact that I have never taken a dime from a Washington lobbyist or a special interest PAC. Because we cannot trade a crowd of corporate Republicans for corporate Democrats. Nothing will change. The argument that you can take these people's money, lobbyists, drug companies, insurance companies, oil companies, and that you're going to be able to stand up to them is a fantasy. It will never happen. The independent voters here in the state of New Hampshire, the Democratic voters here in the state of New Hampshire, you deserve somebody who is truly independent of these moneyed special interests, somebody who will stand up to them. I am the only candidate that has never in my time in public life taken money from these lobbyists or from special interest PAC. And I'll tell you something else. We have a fight on our hands, an epic fight on our hands. And if anybody who thinks that we can sit at a table with drug companies, oil companies, insurance companies, and somehow they will voluntarily give their power away, is living in Never Never Land. It will never happen. I'll tell you when they'll give their power away. They'll give their power away when we take their power away from them. That's when they'll give it away. And I think of the great transformational events in American history. You think about when this country really changed. It only changed when we had leaders of conviction, leaders of strength, leaders who had some fight in them. Teddy Roosevelt, a great American president, stood up to the monopolies and the trust. He didn't negotiate with these people. He busted them. That's what he did. Franklin Roosevelt, one of the great presidents, transformational figure in the history of the United States of America. Franklin Roosevelt was vilified by big corporate America. And his answer, he welcomed their hatred. Because he said, what it means is I'm standing up for the middle class. I'm standing up for working people. I'm standing up for those on the lowest level of the economic ladder. And then one of my favorite American presidents who's in the same category, Harry Truman. You remember the famous Harry Truman story? Somebody said, Harry, you're giving him hell. He said, no, I'm just telling the truth and it feels like hell. Well, we're going to tell the truth. We're going to tell the truth about what's happening. We're going to tell the truth about these moneyed, entrenched interests and what they're doing to the middle class, what they're doing to jobs, what they're doing to people having access to health care, because nothing will change until we break their iron-fisted grip on this democracy. And this is a fight that I have been in my entire life. You know, I fought for 20 years in courtrooms when we would walk into the courtroom and I would be with you or a family like yours, and on the other side would be all the army of corporate lawyers and all the money in the world arrayed behind them. And what I learned from that 20 years was, first, you can't nice these people to death. It doesn't work. They don't respond. You have to fight. But I also learned that if you're tough enough, if you've got what it takes inside, if you're smart enough, willing to work hard enough, you can beat these people. Because we beat them over and over and over, and we're going to do it when I'm your president, when I'm in the White House. Some of you saw the story just a few weeks ago. Actually, her family is here. The Sarkeesian family is here. The 17-year-old girl who lost her life because she needed a liver transplant operation. She needed a liver transplant operation. She had insurance coverage with one of the largest insurers in America. But the insurer said they wouldn't pay for her liver transplant operation. They were not going to pay for it. And so her doctors intervened on her behalf. Her nurses intervened on her behalf. The family pleaded with the insurance company to please let her have this liver transplant operation. No, the answer was no. Twice the answer was no. And finally, they said enough is enough, and they started fighting. And they went down and marched and picketed in front of the offices of this insurance company. They didn't do it alone. They were joined by other Americans who believed in their cause, who believed that they were right and righteous in this cause. And then finally, the insurance company gave in and said they'd make an exception in her case and pay for the liver transplant operation. But they did it too late. By the time they did it, she died just a few hours later. And people say to me, as your president, they want me to sit at a table and negotiate with these people? Never. It will never happen. I will fight for you. I will stand up for you. I will stand up for families like these.
Those of you who've heard him speak and heard me be here know I never interrupt here, but I want to say that the Sarkeesian family made an enormous sacrifice at a really difficult time of their life to be here. And why did they make this sacrifice? Because they wanted Nataline's death not to be in vain. I want you, by your applause, to show your affection for this family and to show
This family has such extraordinary strength and courage to be able to come out, and they've spoken eloquently many times. I won't ask them to speak again, but they have spoken eloquently about what happened to their daughter and what they believe it means for your family and what they believe it means for the kind of president of the United States that you need. Somebody that'll stand up for families like theirs and will stand up against these entrenched moneyed interests. This should never happen in the United States of America. What happened to Nataline should never happen in the United States of America. And that's why it has to change. Things have to change. I wish I was as eloquent as I've heard them be over and over and over. But the fact that they were willing at this extraordinarily difficult time in their lives to come and be here and speak on behalf of their daughter and on behalf of your children. Listen, this insurance company did incredible damage to this family, and they lost a daughter that they loved dearly. But they could never take away their dignity and respect. And you can see it when you talk to them. They are incredibly courageous people.